suit. So there seemed to be confusion earlier in the day on Wednesday on that. But getting back to the Patriots, they have this mantra about them where, look, they've been proven to be cheaters. There's no way around that. When you have the Spygate situation, you have the allegations of what happened before their first Super Bowl with the Rams. I mean, you can listen to the Rams guys like Marshall Faulk talk about the fact that the Patriots knew their plays, especially their red zone plays that they had worked on through that walkthrough that the Patriots were taping, allegedly. You had the whole Deflategate situation. This is a team that skirts the rules. Their owner skirts the law in terms of what he does on his own time. So they've always been able to get away with it. They've been able to get bargain deals on guys. They've taken the troublemakers. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. This is kind of a different situation, though, for them, because this is someone that not only is he sort of self-destructive in himself. You know, Albert Hainsworth had his issues. Corey Dillon had his issues. AB is like injecting a rat in a clinical trial with a medication, and you have no clue what you're doing. It's like, hey, we're going to do a dose 15 times greater than what a human should take just to see what happens. I feel like that's what the Patriots have just done. They've taken a perfectly healthy team and they have injected an unknown into it, and they have no clue how this is going to go. They have no idea when AB is going to explode, when he's going to put something on social media, when he's going to do something stupid, or when a sexual allegation is going to come out of nowhere. And now this team has put their neck out. They've signed him. They've taken the heat. Oh, and by the way, he's got a civil trial for a sexual allegation. Oh, and there's stuff on the internet floating around of an email or text or something that AB sent out to this Brittany Taylor that does not paint him in a good light at all when you're dealing with what he has going on right now. So this could be karma for this team, Eric. This team looked good enough on Sunday night that they could absolutely win the AFC. Just going to have to deal with the Chiefs if they stay healthy. And now you've put AB into the mix, and I don't think you know what to expect. And this whole thing could actually blow up.
I agree with you. It's one of those cases where I think it's going to develop over the coming days, especially as the NFL interviews this young female, as others, other lawyers and other people interview. And they have to put this civil case together if it's going to move forward. So that's going to drag on a little bit. Does that become a distraction for the Patriots, for AB? How's he going to handle that? What's he going to do on his social media? Does he end up basically continuing to injure his own persona on his, follow him on Instagram, people, only for the entertainment value, because this guy, he's a little odd. He's a little out there. He was putting up cartoons and caricatures of him rolling in money in a Patriots uniform not hours after that happened, which, by the way, is another reason I think that him and his social media team were aware of this whole thing happening. But it's, this guy is just an entertainment factor that I don't know that Tom Brady and the Patriots want to deal with. So whether or not he's guilty of this, the Patriots might part ways with him if this gets too muddy and murky. But Justin, it just looks bad all around. And by the way, I've been to a lot of Bible studies in my time. I've really never seen or heard of any Bible studies where it ends up with one of the people masturbating onto the other one after the Bible study is over. So yeah, I think he's attending the wrong Bible studies as well. This guy is just a huge, huge distraction. And it's a shame and it's sad that we have week 1 of the NFL kicked off. There's a lot of good NFL action happening on the field, and yet everyone's focus is drawn into this one individual who's basically just a circus act. A total clown.
Yeah. Once you sent me that, the alleged text or email or whatever he had sent to the accuser, I felt like I had to get on Urban Dictionary to understand, try to make sense of what he was even saying or what I was trying to read or part of the allegation. So I'm glad the ESPN in their articles could, put it in the high road, I guess you could say, and put it in more layman's terms, because I'm not even sure of what AB was talking about at that point. But Eric, we've talked about a lot of this. This seems to be an NBA issue that is now creeping its way into the NFL, where guys in the NBA are becoming their own brands. There's 20 guys or plus in the league that have their own logo. These guys have their own teams around them, their entourages that follow them into the arena. It's almost like they are above the team. They are not even part of the team. You see that with even how Kevin Durant ended up with Golden State. It was like he was his own entity. We've seen it with LeBron. We're seeing it with Kyrie. We're seeing it more and more with these guys where they want their own brand out there. Now you've got AB that's done this. You're starting to see the same thing with Beckham play out with his whole partnership with the watch that we talked about there in segment 1. Is this just a trend that's going to continue to get worse in the league where guys are going to come in and be separate? You've got AB that comes in. He's got his own chef, his own trainer, his own team that takes care of him after a practice, after a game. He's got his own social media team that works with him. Plus, he's got Drew Rosenhaus. Are these guys going to continue this trend where in the NFL, it's all about the locker room, it's all about the team, and then you're going to have guys that are going to try to build their own brand and be separate entities from the team? And how's that going to work and look in the NFL versus the NBA?
Oh, absolutely. It's going to continue to happen because we're in the social media age. We're in the age of self-promotion and edifying yourself above all others. And it's definitely going to continue. There have been other people let's just talk the NFL. There have been other people that have done that. Tom Brady has his own dietitian, his own trainers. He's had that for a long time. The difference is that Tom Brady overall is not a distraction to the team, or at least we don't hear about it publicly. And he's also delivered them 6 Super Bowls. Whether you love him or hate him, that's what the facts are. And so with a guy like AB, a lot of those things would slide under the radar if he wasn't also a complete jackass at the same time. That's where the problems lie. If you have a guy that is like a Tom Brady or is like a fill in the blank, and he's a guy that delivers for your team, brings you championships, and overall is not a social distraction for your franchise, then I think you get away with that. But yeah, you're going to see that more and more. And then you just brought up LeBron. I mean, LeBron, a guy that just recently tried to trademark Taco Tuesday, and thankfully it got denied because even me as a big LeBron homer, I think this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. You know, it's just, again, LeBron having a brand, having his life outside of basketball, which I support for the most part, but a lot of these little ideas and little ways to kind of build up your name above everything else that's happening within your organization. It's not the same, I don't think, as a golfer. Let's say, PGA Tour golfers, for example, or tennis players, they are independent contractors.
Right.
When they go play in a golf tournament, they are not employed by the PGA Tour. So when you have guys like Ricky Fowler or Jordan Spieth or Bubba Watson or all, Rory McIlroy doing commercials and doing all these things that build up their brand, I'm okay with that because their brand is their livelihood outside of whether or not they make a paycheck on the tour. It's a little bit different than that. Or it's really a lot different than that in the NBA and the NFL because they're employed by the team first. They are a franchise employee during the period of time that they're on their contract. Should they be allowed to be in endorsements? Yes. Should they be allowed to have time where they're signing autographs and doing ad revenue and things like that? Yes. But when you take that to a whole nother level and you place yourself above the team and above the franchise and you make your own set of rules for everything, that's a big problem. And when you partner that with a guy like AB, who's just a continual diva distraction, it's a new element that these commissioners have to deal with.
And it's a new element that the teams are dealing with. And of the 2 guys in the NFL that come to mind the most, we just talked about them with AB and with Beckham. Both of them have been traded now. Beckham was a distraction in New York. It's come up. It's been talked about. He was a distraction on the field, on the sideline, off the field. Remember, he had the photo that came out of him, I believe, over in Europe somewhere, and he was eating pizza, and there was women and hookers and potentially cocaine and all this other stuff in that picture. All the stuff around him that distracts the other guys in that locker room. And the Steelers got to the point with AB, even when he was still productive, where it was like, we can't have this guy here. This guy is ruining our culture. When you heard some of the Raiders beat writers talk about it, of AB's kids were allowed out on the practice field no matter what. Most teams have like family days or times. His kids were always out there. He was with his trainer on Hard Knocks all the time. He has his own chef with him in Pittsburgh. He wouldn't stay in the dorms. He wanted to stay somewhere else. When you start making exceptions for those guys, it's going to build up hard feelings. We talked about that even with the NBA at times, where you got entourages that for the star players want to fly on the team plane and they want to hold the plane up for the stars. Eventually that stuff starts to rub other guys the wrong way, especially if you have other really good high profile players on the team and they don't ask for those things or they don't get those things. Yeah. That can cause a lot of animosity. And I think to your point with Brady, he's a guy more interested in health and training, and he's got the TB12 facility at the Patriot Stadium. But outside of him doing a book or something in the offseason, or outside of Belichick limiting his trainer's time at the facility, you rarely hear about it being a distraction in the locker room.
Exactly. You also hear about how many hours he puts in to team activities, watching film, preparing with the game book, learning with his wide receivers. And so I think that he's making deposits and taking withdrawals, but he's making way more deposits for the team than he is taking withdrawals for himself, right?
And plus, when you have 6 Super Bowls, you can kind of train however you want. When you're 42 years old and you're still playing at a top flight level, I think you can pretty much do whatever you want. When you're somebody like AB or Beckham, you don't have that kind of resume, and you're a troublemaker on your team, and you're constantly involved, where a day like on Wednesday, Belichick's in front of the media. Some of the first questions are about AB and the other players. It's the same questions, and they're having to dodge this. And I'm sure that the PR department is probably well versing them of don't say anything, don't even comment, or here's the 2 sentences that you can say just to get it to the next question. You're having to spend time on that. And guess what? As of a week ago, they wouldn't have had to do that. They could have been talking about their performance. They could have been talking about getting up for a game versus a team that just got beat by 49 points. Now they're talking about AB and sexual assault allegations and how this is going to affect the team and what he looks like and this and that. All that stuff, Eric, has to be a distraction. Even trying not to talk about it, like, oh my God, I got to make sure I don't say anything. I can't even give my true opinion. I don't want to piss off Belichick. I don't want to make the front office mad. All that stuff has to be a distraction for this team. And you know what? They signed him. They deserve it. But I'll ask you this, Eric. If a week ago this comes out, do you think the Patriots still sign him?
Oh, gosh. If they do, then I hate them even more than I hate them now. But no, I don't think so. I don't think so, because the risk of the unknown there, if that accusation turns into a charge and you have a guy now that, you know, you've signed, given him a signing bonus, and then he's charged of rape. Yeah, I think that risk is too high. And it's also socially too high. We've seen Ray Rice. We've seen other guys. I mean, they just don't last once this kind of starts to swirl around them. I would hope at least that if this were prior to the Oakland thing, being, you know, him being released in Oakland and moving to the Patriots, man, I would hope that they wouldn't have signed him.
I can't see that they would have signed him either. I think they felt like they could get through some of this other stuff and they could sort of clean him up, make him a reclamation project for him. Now you've got this sitting out there on top of what Kraft just went through, and you're kind of playing in that same ball field. I don't think they would have wanted any piece of this, because this is a story that's not going to go away when the NFL gets their hands on it. Look, we've seen a lot of these situations that pop up, and the accusers not want to work with the NFL, not want to talk to them, not want to deal with the investigation, and eventually things get pushed aside. Now you've got an accuser that's more than willing to talk to the NFL. So how that all plays out, what she discloses to them, what other information we haven't seen, text, emails, video, for God's sake, we don't know what is out there that could potentially come out. So for us as fans, for the Patriots as a team, everybody is going to be watching what develops with this story for sure.
Wow. We covered a lot of ground right there. And I think the true answer is we just have to wait and see. So we'll be heading into week 2 of the NFL as this podcast drops, and hopefully you're listening to it prior to this week's slate of games. Justin, which game are you most looking forward to? Maybe it's the Broncos game. I know they were in a close matchup with the Raiders. I wouldn't say the Broncos looked horrible. I think the Raiders actually looked a little bit. Well, I think the Raiders looked better than people thought they would. I mean, to me, I thought their offense clicked a little bit more than even I thought they would after all those distractions. Certainly got a huge production out of Tyrell Williams, and to me, that made a big difference for them. Derek Carr looked good. But is it the Broncos, you know, what they're going to do in week 2, or is it another matchup that just kind of has you the most interested as we wrap up this podcast and head into week 2 of the NFL?
The matchup for me is going to be a Sunday afternoon when the Saints travel to the Rams. I think that's going to be the game that's going to have everybody's attention. It had me concerned with the Saints. Like I said, I do the pod out of West Virginia. We are fortunate to be part of the DraftKings Sportsbook, and I was more than happy to look at the Saints to not cover versus the Texans, and especially in the first half. I thought they would be distracted looking ahead to this Rams game. Their whole season seems to be trying to get over what happened last year in the NFC Championship game with